My husband Charlie, 26M, my sister-in-law Cheryl, 28F, and I, 26F, all went to high school together, and that's how we know each other. Charlie and I were obviously in the same year and are pretty much high school sweethearts. We started dating in our sophomore year and have been together since then. With Cheryl, well, it's been different. I would like to say that we are high school nemesis since she's always hated me and the feelings have been mutual. She was 2 years older than us, so she was a senior, but that did not stop her from being a total jerk to me at all times. She was a nasty bully in high school, and I would like to say that she has not changed since then. Unfortunately, for her, I was the only kid who could actually stand up to her back in high school. Everybody else was scared to even speak to her because she and her clique of friends were known for doing nasty things to anybody who decided to go against them, and they would spread rumors or do things so mean that some people had even changed schools because of them. I'm not even kidding, they were that bad. However, since I had always been friends with her brother, I was not afraid to stand up to her. Even before I started dating Charlie, we had been really good friends, and I would go over to his place all the time. So Cheryl did not seem like some undefeatable entity to me, she just seemed like another kid. I think that's the way it should have been for everyone, but I don't know, man, high school is weird. Anyway, I was not scared of her, and after I started dating Charlie, I got even more bold. She had no authority over me even in her senior year when most people were terrified of her, and I guess the fact that I was challenging her status was not really good for her back then, and she ended up doing something really horrible to me. One morning in high school, I just opened my locker like I usually do, and a bunch of fish water and dead fish fell on me, and I was covered in all that disgusting slimy crap from head to toe. It was really embarrassing and humiliating, and I had to go home that day because I was so upset. I couldn't trace it back to Cheryl, but I knew that it had to be her because just the other day, before that incident, we had a really nasty verbal fight in the cafeteria, and I'd called her a brain-dead zombie in front of her own friends, and some of them had actually chuckled. So obviously, that could not go unanswered, and she did that to me. Even Charlie knew that it had to be his sister, and because of that incident, they also ended up getting into a big fight, and even though he wasn't able to get her to apologize to me, he was at least able to get her to back off. Because after that incident, she and I just never spoke to each other again, and even though he and I have been together for so long, things have been the same way. However, last year, Charlie and I ended up getting married, and a few weeks after the wedding, my in-laws told me and Cheryl that they knew that we had had our differences in the past, but now that we were family, we had to make more of an effort to be good to each other. Because everybody had noticed how we don't speak to each other or even look at each other during events, and some nosy relatives had been questioning them about it, and it was very embarrassing to tell them the truth, so they wanted us to at least try and get along. I was willing to put things in the past since it's been a long time since high school ended, and I think it's about time that we moved on. So I told them that I was fine with it, and we shook on it, like adults do. But it was not like we were going to become best friends overnight, so we decided to be at least cordial to each other at events instead of just giving each other the cold shoulder like we usually did before that. And for the past year, ever since we had that discussion with my in-laws, things have been going pretty well. Whenever we would meet each other, we would greet one another, and then move on with our day. I really thought that we had agreed to put our bad blood in the past. But she pulled something really mean again this year, a couple of months ago, on my birthday of all days. She showed up empty-handed at my birthday, which was fine, but then while I was unwrapping everybody's presents, she announced that she was actually giving me cooking lessons and sent me an online program that she had purchased at the party itself, and said that it was supposed to be a joke, but I didn't laugh and neither did anybody else. For context, it was incredibly insulting because I had done all the cooking for the day by myself. Even though I'm not a professional chef, I've always loved being in the kitchen and cooking up new things. It's been a hobby of mine ever since I was a child, and her saying that she was going to give me cooking lessons right after she had an entire meal that had been made all by me, and everyone knew that since Charlie had announced it, so that was just really mean. I had put in a lot of hard work and had been up since 6 in the morning that day to make sure that everything was perfect, so I really took that to heart. Even after she clarified that it was a joke, nobody really seemed to laugh, and some people just forced out a chuckle so she would drop it, but she just went on and on about it. She kept saying that she was just joking, but she really believed that I needed cooking lessons because everything that she had eaten that day was making her feel queasy, and she felt like she was going to throw up any moment, and kept joking about how everybody needed to clear the way to the washroom in case she needed to barf. By the end of the evening, she had been getting on my last nerve, and I was very relieved when she finally left. She didn't even bother to say goodbye after she had spent the entire day making jokes at the expense of my cooking skills, which are not even that bad. Charlie told me that everything that I had made was really delicious, and so did everybody else, so I don't even know what she was on about. Anyway, I had actually started to believe that she might turn out to be a decent human being after all, but after my birthday, I made up my mind that I was going to go back to ignoring her once again, since she was clearly still stuck in her high school mean girl mode, and somebody like her did not deserve to be on good terms with me. Now, last week, she celebrated her birthday, and even though we're not getting along right now, she had to invite me because I had invited her to my party, and it would be really weird if Charlie went and I did not. So just for the sake of keeping the peace of the family, She invited me and it turned out to be a big mistake because I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine and gave her this book. I gave her What to Expect When You're Expecting, a classic, based on a conversation that I had overheard a couple of weeks back. For context, 3 weeks ago, Cheryl had showed up at our house and she seemed like she was pretty devastated and insisted that she wanted to speak to Charlie in private. So I cleared out while she and her brother were having a conversation in the living room, but she didn't know that I was standing right outside and I was trying to eavesdrop on their conversation. Yeah, I know it's not ethical or whatever, but I was really curious to know what was going on and I just couldn't wait for her to go and then Charlie would tell me everything. So I just decided to try and overhear what they were talking about, and I learned that Cheryl was pregnant and she did not go into the details, but she was really worried because she did not feel ready to have a baby yet and she had come to her brother to seek advice. He told her that even if she didn't feel ready for it, she had to talk about this to her husband, and if, even after that, she felt like she was not ready, then they could always have the pregnancy terminated since it was still in the early stages. But he thought that speaking to her husband might help her calm down and deal with things better, so he comforted her for a bit and then, she left. After she had left, I spoke to Charlie about whatever I had heard, and both of us agreed that she had been acting really weird. Because even if she was not ready to have a baby, it did not make any sense for her to come to us. And she had been saying certain things that almost felt like she wanted Charlie's help in terminating the pregnancy in secret, but he was not going to do something so underhanded since he believed that her husband deserved to know before she did anything. Don't get it wrong, ultimately the decision is the woman's, but she was married, and we felt like her husband deserves to at least know. Anyway, since then, we had not heard anything with regard to her pregnancy, but I decided to play a little prank on her and give her that book. She did not unwrap the presents in front of all the guests at the party, thankfully, but it didn't matter because that book really got her into trouble, and now, there is a chance that her husband might end up leaving her. The day after her birthday, she called me up in tears and said that I had ruined her life and accused me of sabotaging her marriage on purpose, but I had no idea what she was talking about. I couldn't even get her to tell me what was going on because she was just so angry that she kept yelling at me, and after she was done, she hung up without another word. And after that phone call, my in-laws called me and they told me exactly what had happened. Apparently, she had been unwrapping all the gifts with her husband, and then that book had come up and I had even written a note and attached it to the book, saying that Charlie and I wanted to congratulate her. She hadn't announced the pregnancy or anything yet, but I just wanted to be mean to her and mess with her like she had messed with me on my birthday. I really had no idea that it would lead to such serious repercussions. That one book had led to a huge fight because apparently, what I did not know was that her husband was sterile, and there was no way that she had gotten pregnant by him, so now, I think that she might have been cheating. And her husband had already been suspecting her, and that book just strengthened his doubts. Now, nobody in the family knows if she had actually been cheating or not, but honestly, who are we kidding? If he is biologically incapable of having children, there is no way that she is not cheating. Anyway, that's none of my business. All I know is that she had come to Charlie and had expected him to help her out with terminating the pregnancy in secret, and now we finally know why she was so panicky when she spoke to Charlie and why she wanted to get it done secretly, since she's a housewife and whatever she spends, it can be traced by her husband. She obviously couldn't let that happen if she wanted to terminate the pregnancy without him knowing. Even withdrawing cash would be suspicious because it would still be a significant amount of money that would lead to questions. Anyway, Cheryl tried really hard to convince her husband that I was just kidding, and there was nothing going on, and the book was just a prank. But he refused to believe it because he did not think that Charlie and I would make a joke like this, and there definitely had to be something to it. So he asked Cheryl to leave, and now she is living with her parents. My in-laws called me because they wanted me to speak to her husband and convince him that I had just given her that book to mess with her, and convince her husband to talk to her and come back because he had already been suspecting her of cheating, and now, her faithfulness had been pushed even more into question. They believe that this is my fault and that I shouldn't have done what I did, but I don't believe that. So my in-laws and I have been at odds for the past week. I think that I was perfectly justified in doing what I did because of the way she had behaved at my birthday party. I really had no idea that it would lead to such drama, so I don't think I can take the fall for that. If she didn't want trouble in her marriage, she probably should have just stayed loyal to her husband. I don't think it's fair to blame me for that, and Charlie feels the same way. He does think that the gift was a tad bit too much, compared to what happened at my birthday party, but either way, he doesn't think that I need to apologize to Cheryl or even speak to her husband about any of this. My in-laws kept arguing with us, telling us that we needed to fix the situation because her marriage was at stake, and if we didn't convince her husband that this was just a joke, they might end up getting divorced, and that's not going to be good for the family. But I believe that if she had actually been pregnant when she came to speak to Charlie that day, and her husband is sterile, she had definitely been cheating. And if that's the case, we don't want to defend her and get involved in any capacity. Besides, the book was just payback for the jokes that she cracked on my birthday, and I had no idea that it would lead to something like this, so it's not like I did anything on purpose and I have nothing to be sorry for. But all of them are acting like I'm the villain, the mastermind who had this entire evil plan in mind to destroy her on purpose or something. This is really weird, and now, I'm doubting my decisions. Ida for giving my Scylla book on pregnancy on her birthday? Update 1. Hi, so it's been 2 weeks since I gave Cheryl that book, and up until now, we have been refusing to speak to her husband, and we are going to stick to doing that in the future as well. Because from what we know, she had actually been cheating on her husband with another man. I'm not sure who, but I think it's somebody from high school. And what's worse, I think it's somebody from Charlie's friend circle, because a couple of days ago, we had a conversation, or rather, an argument, with Cheryl on the phone, and she said that it was very unfair that she was being held responsible for all of this, but Charlie's friend was equally responsible, and yet, he was not getting any flack and was even refusing to stand up for her. Charlie has quite a lot of married friends from high school, so we don't exactly know who she's talking about right now, but that's not even our biggest problem. My in-laws are being very difficult to deal with. They keep insisting that I need to talk to her husband before he files for divorce, which I don't think he has done yet. He just keeps saying that he'll do it, but if he really wants to separate, he should have done it already. I don't understand what he's waiting for, but anyway, they think that they still have time, and if I just talk to him, I might be able to convince him not to leave her, and I was just playing a prank. But I have refused to let myself be dragged into all of this drama since I don't have anything to do with it. I just want to sit back and relax, but they have been making it very difficult for us. So yesterday, we had to make a very tough decision and finally block all 3 of them because they had been bothering us a little too much. And it's about to be 2 weeks, we can't keep talking to them and trying to make them understand where we are coming from. I know a lot of people in the section of my original thought that it was not nice of me to do what I did, but she was literally a bully to me in high school. I don't think I have to feel bad for what I did to her. And she had been cheating, but anyway, it's a free country and people are allowed to disagree with me. Update 2. Hi, so it's been 3 days since our last update and we were finally able to figure out who she had been having that affair with. This friend of Charlie that she had been referring to turned out to be one of his closest friends, so this is quite unexpected. Charlie had been venting to his friends about how difficult things had been for him for the past 2 weeks because his family was being very unreasonable right now, and I guess his friend just couldn't take it anymore and decided to confess everything. He contacted Charlie and told him that he had been having an affair, and apparently, all of this started about 1 year ago, around the time of our wedding. It was quite shocking for us, and we are still struggling to process this because Charlie is really close to all of his friends, and a betrayal like this was something we had never expected. This friend of his has been married for 3 years, and from whatever we have observed, he and his wife seem to be really in love. I know the woman personally, she can't stop talking about her husband, and now I just really feel bad for her. So we immediately decided to cut him off, and we are not telling anybody about any of this right now, since we didn't want to defame him, but we are definitely not going to entertain this anymore. We even advised him to come clean to his wife instead of us because she's the one who really deserves to know the truth. Nobody should ever have to go through something like this. He also sent us proof of Cheryl cheating on her husband with him, and we have come to the conclusion that we were right to not let ourselves get dragged into this drama. Nothing good would come out of it for us, at least. So we're keeping them blocked, and that's going to be our final call. From what we know, they have not spoken to anybody else about this, and everybody's still assuming that we are on good terms with my in-laws, and Charlie's relatives seem to know nothing of the drama that's going on behind the scenes. I'm guessing that they're keeping things under wraps because this entire situation is pretty embarrassing for the family and they don't want to ruin their reputation. I guess that's a really shallow reason, but I actually appreciate the fact that they are so concerned about how people perceive them, since it's helping us in keeping all of this quiet because we don't really want to deal with other people right now. We have enough on our plates as it is. One of his cousins is getting married in a few weeks, so they're gonna have to attend that wedding. Given the current situation, we don't know if my in-laws or Cheryl are going to be there, but if they do choose to attend, boy, it's going to be really weird for everybody involved. Update 3. Hey, so this update is coming almost 2 months after my last. Nothing interesting really happened in these past 2 months. After we blocked my in-laws, we sort of forgot about them. There was no news from their end either, and they did not try to get in touch with us after we blocked them. There was no pregnancy announcement and no announcement of a divorce either, so we assumed that maybe Cheryl and her husband had been able to talk things through and patch things up. Good for them, I guess. We don't really care about what's going on in their marital life because both Charlie and I know that cheating never goes undiscovered forever, and when her husband finally finds out the truth, she'd definitely get what she deserves. And about the pregnancy, I guess she had terminated the pregnancy somehow. Anyway, whatever happened, it was not our concern, so we did not bother ourselves with it and stuck to our own business until a couple of days ago when we met his family at his cousin's wedding. All of them were in attendance, including my in-laws, Cheryl, and her husband as well. Once we were there, we did not even greet each other and pretended like the others did not even exist, and obviously, the rest of the family picked up on it immediately. So they realized that something bad had happened, and immediately, people started asking us all sorts of questions. They tried to be subtle about it, but we knew that they were trying to get to know what the gossip was. However, we did not entertain anybody and just tried to keep to ourselves so that nobody would bother us. But Cheryl did not take the same approach as us and decided to blab her mouth off, in spite of knowing that we knew the truth. We were going to be there in the hotel for 3 days, and it was only a matter of time until we went home, So we were ready to tolerate her, but she started saying such horrible things about us that we couldn't help but confront her about it, and unfortunately, that led to a very public showdown between our families at the rehearsal dinner. I regret the fact that it happened because it was somebody else's wedding and Charlie and his cousin were on good terms, but now, it's because of us that one of the events got completely ruined. Of course, after that kind of scene, we could not stay any longer and had to leave before the wedding even took place. We have since apologized to her several times and she has said that she is cool with it and stuff, but we still feel really bad about what happened. And then, on the other hand, there is Cheryl and my in-laws who did not even bother to apologize to Charlie's cousin, even after being the one who is actually responsible for creating all of this drama. At least we left of our own accord. They had literally been asked to leave by the other members of the family after we left. Serves them right, they deserve this sort of humiliation. When Charlie's cousin told him about it the day before her wedding, while we were apologizing to her on the phone, it was quite satisfying for both of us. The reason we even had ended up in a fight was because she had been telling all the relatives and anybody who would listen to her that apparently, we had tried to ruin her marriage by telling her husband lies about how she had been cheating and stuff, but we had been unsuccessful in trying to sabotage her marriage. Obviously, that was not true because like we said, we don't care about what goes on in her marital life since her husband had proven how stupid he is by choosing to stay with a woman like that. We were even willing to let that slide because we were attending somebody else's wedding and we did not want to throw a tantrum. But then, she started claiming that we were the ones who had an open marriage and I wanted to build a relationship with her husband, which is why I had always been so jealous of her. That was something that we could not tolerate, so we decided to confront her, and on the evening of the rehearsal dinner, I brought up all the proof, the screenshots that we had received from Charlie's friend, which I had been keeping to myself for so long, but now, Charlie and I thought that it was finally time to defend myself since she couldn't just say what she wanted and get away with it. Now, her husband finally knows the truth and can no longer deny it, and whether or not he is going to make the right choice for himself and leave her is his call, but at least now there's going to be nobody doubting us anymore. And at least we had the decency to live on our own and did not have to be thrown out like they did. It was just a really bad couple of days, but we are trying to get over it. Now, the entire family knows what kind of person Cheryl is, and I just feel pity for her husband because he had chosen to patch up with her, but even that was pointless. Now, I really hope he finds the courage to leave, and if he chooses to stay with her, then that just means that he has absolutely no self-respect or dignity of his own. She had been accusing us of sabotaging her marriage for so long, we finally decided to go ahead and do it, and now, she's gonna have to face the consequences of trying to go out of her way to bully us. I don't know how she expected to get away with all of this. Charlie and I had literally been standing up to her since high school, and I think we have made it very clear that we're not afraid of her. So we were not going to back down now either. She should have known that. Update 4. So, it's happening. It's been 2 weeks since we came back from Charlie's cousin's wedding, and today, I finally heard from a couple of relatives that Cheryl had posted that she and her husband were getting divorced. She has asked everybody to respect their privacy at this difficult time in her life and has said that it's a mutual decision to part ways. What a load of baloney. I don't understand why she's acting like people were not present at the wedding and literally her entire family is not aware of what actually happened and the real reason why they're getting divorced. We will certainly be respecting her privacy. I don't think anybody needs to ask her what has happened because we all know already. Even her friends have been able to find out because Charlie decided to tell some of his friends, and then, that's how the gossip started. We don't even regret what we did because she had been talking so much crap about us in the past. I don't think that we even need to feel sorry about what we did or for her. If she is going to go low, we are going to go lower. Period. She has always been a big bully, and I think we are doing the right thing because somebody needed to take her down a peg and we were glad to be able to do that. If that makes us the bad guys for some people, that's fine with us. For instance, my in-laws have decided to cut us out of their life completely, and have even communicated that to Charlie, by having their lawyer contact him and say that they have decided to go no contact with us and are probably going to be cutting us out of the inheritance too. As if we're gonna hear that and immediately start begging for forgiveness. That's not gonna happen. We are not sellouts who can be bought with money, and besides, they really should keep all their money to themselves since they are going to have to support their daughter now, probably for the rest of their lives, seeing how she hasn't worked since she graduated and has been relying on either her parents or her husband. So yeah, by all means, they can keep their money and Cheryl with themselves. We did what we thought was right and we are not going to act like we're sorry for it. Charlie and I are perfectly content with our lives at the moment and we don't care about anybody else.